Welcome to episode 18 of the Crownsman podcast. I'm your host, Jared Downey, and my co-host is Gowdy Molina.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Yeah.
We've got Dan De Palma,
Yes.
who is the VP of Sales and Marketing for Streamline, which is a division of Aero.
That's right. Yeah.
So Streamline offers fleet management solutions.
Mm-hmm.
So they're tracking, I'll let Dan explain it.
Yeah.
But they're tracking, there are fleet management solutions. They're using cloud and tablet-based technology to manage all these fleets. So very interesting if you're into the transport and trucking industries. There's some interesting stuff that they're doing, the technology where it's going to develop in the future, where it's going. So we're going to get into that later on in the show. Dan's also a coach. So,
That's right. To hockey, right?
Hockey,
Yeah.
which you're a big fan of. So we're going to get into a little bit of that. So lots to cover in the show today. But first, we have sponsors that help us bring the show to you.
That's right. So, of course, we are sponsored this week. We actually are offering, they're offering our listeners a course, a structural geology and mining course put on by Sean Daly, who has a Bachelor of Science in Geology, a Master's of Engineering in Mining and Engineering. The purpose of the course is to learn practical aspects of the relationship between structural geology and mining, with emphasis on open pit. It starts May 6th. No email, so please email peter.daly@hotmail.ca, and we'll add the link at the bottom just for you. Or you can follow the link in our video description on YouTube. So please go to, it's a great,
it's a long
link. But I'll add the link at the bottom.
Yeah.
Again, contact Sean Daly at peter.daly@hotmail.ca.
Yeah, he worked in the industry for 40 years. Mm-hmm. So besides the masters and everything, he's got a ton of experience. He actually worked for Highland Valley Copper.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is sort of our area where we're from. Yeah. And actually where Dan is from.
Absolutely,
that area too.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi, Dan. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Gowdy, would you mind turning my headset down just a little bit, please?
Sounds good. You're actually this one. How's that sound?
That's much better. Thank
Perfect.
you. How's it going?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. I'm good. Thanks. Did you drive in just last night?
I drove in last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met with a customer last night and then got up bright and early to make sure I was on time. So, here we are. It's pretty excited about the opportunity to do this. So, thank you again.
We're very happy how, when we first started the show, we were doing like one a month. And then we found it harder to book. But now with doing once a week, we found the more shows, more people see, and people just love to come on. So thanks for coming all the way to join the show. Can you just outline a little bit about Streamline, what they're doing, what they're offering, how they tie in with Aero, everything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Streamline is a division of Aero Transportation. Aero is a 100-year-old transportation logistics company. So it's 4 generations of a private family, the Charles family. They've done a remarkable job growing it from day one to where we are today, celebrating our 100th anniversary. And it's basically technology that Aero was running in the late 90s, early 2000s through a third-party vendor that in those days was very difficult business to run for our partner. And as a result, very cumbersome, very expensive, hard to make a business out of that type of technology in those days. So the platform we were using went bankrupt, and we were in a position where we had to decide, what we were going to do next. Were we going to go buy another platform, or maybe did we have enough horsepower to build something ourselves? And we decided that, based on some of the people that we had on board, you had to support yourself as much as your vendor would support you. We decided to take it on ourselves. So in the early 2000s, 2005, we basically become Streamline. We start building the platform for ourselves, really with the sole purpose of running it and operating ourselves. And I can get into why, obviously, as we go. Yeah. 2007, we incorporate Streamline, actually, ironically, through an e-learning company that we acquired, but kept the name and just moved the company along to the point where we thought around 2010, I would say the vision starts to become, if we can do something good here, maybe it's something we could take to market. Right. Our pain points that we're feeling when we go to see these vendors and talk about what we want as an organization, might be other companies that are feeling the same thing. So if we can do a great job with our platform and understand the business because we live it, maybe we can go out and sell it and carve out a business unit and collaborate and move the platform forward at the same time. Make sure we don't get too stale with it.
Right.
So here we are, 2016. We go to market lightly, just find some key test customers, proof of concept, and few friends and references through the industry, and here we are today. Streamline's effectively turned 12 years old back in March, and it's been exciting. It's been a lot of fun.
So it actually started out with a platform platforms that Arrow was using.
Correct.
Which I'm sure there still are.
Yep.
And now you've basically spun it into being a product for, I guess even competitors.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was purpose built for us, and then took it to market.
Yeah.
And looking to carve out, what the next step of technology looks like for the industry.
Right. I'd like to get into that as soon, right off the bat, just so people have an understanding of what we're actually physically talking now. Is there a software and hardware component to this?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The hardware piece, we've got some proprietary hardware that we build ourselves.
Right.
That's really the differentiator for us moving forward. That's really our biggest vision piece and where we really get excited about what we're doing with the business. And then a lot of it, like you say, with cloud technologies is consumer-based tablets, cradles that we buy to mount them in vehicles, connect to the cloud through our partners. And so it's a combination of consumer-based hardware, our own software that we've developed, and some proprietary hardware that we've developed as well.
Right. Now, in the technology, you have, well, I'll go through them each individually. You have Navistream. Yeah, would you mind bringing that up on the...
It's actually up.
Oh.
There we go.
You're ahead of me.
Step ahead of us.
I am.
Can you scroll down so we can see... Now, is this a hardware piece, or is this a software piece integrated into a tablet?
So basically, Navistream is the name of the software platform.
Right.
That's what you're getting your information from. At the end of the day, you want to connect to the vehicle, and you want to connect to the people that are looking after the vehicle to gain knowledge, so you can measure, you can manage, and then you can improve. That's really the goal of telematics. There's compliance pieces, there's safety pieces, really, really important. But like we were talking a little bit before we got started, it's a business that you're supporting, and you want to support them in terms of how they can make money.
Right.
They're not running charities; they want to make money, and survive, and carry on, and do things the right way.
Yeah.
So this affords you the ability to do things the right way, process driven, make money. So the platform really is hardware that goes in the vehicle, so we can interact with the driver, give him or her the information that they need, and then connect to the vehicle's engine, so we can drive some parameters from there, and then feed it to the back end through a SIM card, a data plan that pushes to the cloud to the office via just a simple web browser. So that really made it a lot easier for us to go to market, because in the old days, your satellite, it's expensive. It's not as easy to get that information from a vehicle to the back office. Well, it's pretty simple now. We do it on our own personal lives every day.
Yeah. What's the information? For people that aren't familiar with the telematics, what's the information that's being given to the driver? What's the information that's being put back to, I guess, the head office?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. There has to be value in it for everybody.
Right.
So from a driver's standpoint, let's start there, because we're driver-centric. When you have over 700 of your own drivers, which isn't huge for some of our listeners' standpoint, and for others, they're going to say, it's really big in terms of the amount of drivers you have. And they're really good at telling you when something's wrong. They're not shy in your own house when you're developing something.
Right.
You get a ton of feedback. So we've done a really good job there. We're really proud of the interface with the driver and giving the driver value. So the driver, gets in the cab, starts up their vehicle, and the first thing they need to do is log in, and then they need to do an inspection on the vehicle. So the login flow really walks them through nicely what a typical day will look like for them. So it's not getting in their way. It's actually going through the process and the order of things that a driver needs. So a real simple interface, everything they would have done on paper prior with an electronic or with an inspection on the vehicle, now they've got electronically, really clean, really simple. And now what that does for the driver, it's not a lot of work for them. It's ensuring that it gets done, which they will get hounded about. They don't have to collect paper and turn in their paper, and that information gets into the shop and gets into the office instantly. So now we're not waiting for days for that vehicle to come back to us. We have that information instantaneously. So information's power. We always say, get good information into smart people's hands, let them make great decisions. And that's really, I think, what we're trying to do. So the driver goes through his or her day, loads, unloads, drives, and through the course of the day, the activities that they need to get through, and the compliance pieces that they probably are most burdened by
Yeah.
are all done for them with the telematics.
Right.
For our standpoint, back in the office, putting my trucking hat back on, because I've been on the trucking side for a number of years prior to this.
Right.
We get that valuable information. We get those compliance pieces. We can see where we're violations. And then on top of that, we can get into the behavior of the driver and make sure that, people are doing the right things so that we're safe, we're clean, but most importantly, we're making money.
Right.
That we're driving the right way, and we're not spending money that we don't need to spend, because we all drive personal vehicles. I mean, we know if I drive to Kamloops today and I put my foot into it a little hard, my fuel economy is not going to be as good. I'll
Right.
spend more
yeah.
money. Well, you do that times 400 vehicles, 20 and a half days a month.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of money. Like, it's a difference between living 100 years and living, 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really it.
Yeah.
It's massive. So
So how much is it tracking though? Is it tracking, how well they're shifting through the gears as well as their speed, stopping? Like how in depth is it going?
Yeah.
I've never driven a truck, so I don't, that initial, even when the trucker gets in and fires up the vehicle, what is that process like? What are they checking, the main things before they get going?
Oh,
And
it's
then-
a great question. I mean, they're just checking for the safety of the vehicles that they're going to operate, to make sure that nothing's wrong, so they don't have a bad day and a catastrophe. So there's a in-cab piece, there's the engine piece that they're checking for the vehicle, the circle check, tires and whatnot, the trailers that they may or may not be pulling. So just an overall health check of their vehicle and what they're pulling for the day.
Right.
Is really that inspection piece.
Yeah.
The log piece, the electronic log, just really gets into how many hours they're going to drive. So there's rules in every jurisdiction, and you're allowed to drive so much, and then you need so much rest. And we won't get into the detail of that, because it's really not really the biggest part of what we want to talk about. But the whole concept of that is, let's make sure people aren't driving too much so they're safe on the road. They're not, fatigue's a big part of our industry, right?
Right.
And now with the electronic mandate that's happened in the U.S., as of December 2017, and is coming in Canada, every vehicle is going to need some form of electronic log that connects to the driver and
Yeah.
connects to the engine.
Right.
So that's a piece that is coming and is forcing industry to look a little bit more at technology in the vehicle. And then for me, it's, you're going to do this, but let's get you some money back. If we're going to spend money to have an electronic log in the vehicle, let's find a way to make that an investment for you, that we can find ways to help your business and actually help you make more money.
Right.
Okay.
So is a Navistream, is it also like if a trucker is going down and he's braking too hard going down, is that also tracking that, or is this the time component?
No, that's, I mean, to dovetail in the next part of your question, from a driver's standpoint, that's what he's most interested in. The driving piece, absolutely. It's speed, it's braking, it's RPM, which gets into your shifting and your
Right.
aggressive type driving, idle time in the vehicle, hard brake applications, all those types of things will create a scorecard.
Right.
So at the end of the day, every driver, the three of us drive, we're gonna get a score,
Yeah.
a positive score or a less than positive score, and we're gonna see how we did.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I really believe, and in my own experience, and that's where it's nice, having come from the trucking and transportation background myself. It's not like I'm just out, presenting technology that I don't really understand, how this is actually going to play out in a fleet if you've never run
Yeah.
it, or if you have. Like, I understand the pushback and the positives, and I really have learned in my 12 years, 13 years on the aero side of the business, that most people, they want to do a good job.
Yeah.
They don't mind. Like, they want to see where they can improve. They
Yeah.
want to see what they want to do. And those are the type of people that you want.
Yeah.
And you know what? My old adage was, good people want to surround themselves with good people. So we're trying to create and establish who our good people are, and that's going to draw more good people in, and that's how you run a 100-year-old company.
Yeah, I've got in my little car, I've got it's always scoring me, so I'm actually watching it. Is this in real time? Like, as they're driving, is it scoring them while they're driving?
Yeah, it's a
or
great
is it-
question.
Yeah.
They're getting coached as they drive now. So
Yeah.
in the old generation of the platform that wasn't cloud-based, it was, at the end of the day, we print them a piece of paper, we stick it in their little box, we give them an attaboy or come see me,
Yeah.
and that's really what you did. And then it goes into leadership. It's like you talked about off air, it goes into how you coach, how you lead people, or if you're going to be successful or not, or if you're going to lose them.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, there's that active coaching as they're driving. So without getting too much of a nuisance in the cab,
Right.
you'll just coach on some key parameters.
Right.
Their score and their points total is there, and it's good. It creates that competition, for lack of a better word, with
Yeah.
yourself, right?
Yeah.
If you're internally motivated, you want to do all.
Yeah.
Pushes you to be better.
And then now Navilink, what is that? is that part of the NaviStream
Yeah,
system?
so NaviStream is the telematics platform, the onboard platform. Our NaviLink suite of hardware is really how we connect to the engine. So the hub is really what drives the brain. And really what NaviLink means to us for those out there is it's how we're going to connect. We're going to connect not only to the engine, as many have done in the past, but we can start to now connect to different sensors, different peripherals. We can start to drive the business in terms of what customers have that they're already using and how we can pull it all together through one platform. So we look at our platform as the hub and how we can connect different things to that. And then that NaviLink piece, really the bigger differentiator and maybe the most interest to your listeners today would really be how we can automate the vehicle.
Oh, okay.
So, like we talked earlier, it's city of Kamloops, waste vehicles driving through the community, never exceeding speed limit. So they never have to worry about their vehicles going through a school zone at anything other than the speed that they've programmed into the vehicle.
Right.
So I think for some fleets and some pockets of fleets where maybe there's permits, maybe there's certain high density areas or very sensitive areas, it's a really nice feature to ensure that you're going to get the performance that you need in those specific areas.
Yeah.
It's very unique to industry, and we're really excited about it. And I think it is hands down our biggest differentiator. Really excited about how we can help fleets and help companies do that.
So how much of this NaviLink, now there's a sort of a future component of, but that's not active at this moment, right? Like actually controlling the speed and things like that.
We have it active in some proof of concepts, and
Oh.
we've got basically some test customers that are working through it with us, which is
Yeah.
great,
Yeah.
along with our own fleet.
Right.
When you have 400 of your own trucks, you've got a lot of tests that you can do there as well.
Right.
And so we're being very strategic on how we do this because we really feel that, there's so much talk of autonomous vehicles and whatnot, and we don't really there's a debate on how long that will take or what'll happen. We still need the human interaction in the vehicle. We still need the people. So it's just how do we manage that? I think it's a logical step in the evolution of where industry's going.
Yeah. Actually, I was curious when you said about Aero being the one. So they originally took over. It wasn't called Streamline, but they took over the technology, right?
Yes.
Now that must be when on the R&D side. How much has that technology advanced since Aero take it over? Because now you do have you have 400 trucks. You can test it on 4 or 5 of the vehicles
Yes.
and get all the kinks. That must, that must streamline the process.
That's great.
Yeah,
It's a good name that way.
I couldn't think.
It's
of
inevitable.
I couldn't think of another
No,
word.
it's inevitable. You sit down with a customer or someone like yourself, and it always works its way in, and it always gets a chuckle, which is
Yeah.
good too. So
But it must really do that because you're eliminating having to then. I mean, you said you have test customers too, but you can kind of start with. Do you generally start with it internally?
Absolutely.
And then move out.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have the luxury of your own fleet, your own everything.
Yeah.
I mean, your own equipment, your own managers, your own workforce, your own different environments in terms of how those workforces are organized. So yeah, we're pretty fortunate that way.
Yeah.
But by the same token, we're humble enough to know that we don't know everything.
Right.
And I think that's part of our success. I mean, we've always said, hire great people, give them technology, and give them the autonomy to make great decisions. But we don't know everything. So, that's a great part of getting into other fleets and other customers and collaborating.
Yeah.
And I think that's, from the core telematics, the basic NaviStream standpoint, the first piece we talked about, that's been one real nice advantage. We're dealing with other companies that weren't really competitors, but at the end of the day, another trucking company, and we're well respected in this part of the world.
Yeah.
Which is nice. So people are curious in what we're doing. They think they can learn something from us. We think we can learn something from them, and it's a great avenue to be able to collaborate with other companies and make a platform that works and helps Aero.
Yeah.
Like, by going to market, we've made the platform better. That's going to help us too.
Yeah. So I guess in that sense, sometimes when you find something that needs to get improved, it might not necessarily go to Aero then, because if the challenge is coming, the issue, for lack of a better word, is coming from someone who's testing it, one of your customers, you have to fix it from their standpoint or update
Correct.
it from their
Yeah,
standpoint.
correct. And what we're seeing more over time is that, we started, let's be honest, of course it was Aero. I mean, Aero was the only one using the platform. It was all about Aero. We go to market and we're finding that no disrespect, our owner doesn't want to hear this. It's not all about Aero anymore. It's
Right.
about our customers.
Yeah.
And it's becoming less and less about Aero, and Aero will probably maybe benefit more than anybody as a result of us becoming streamlined and standing on our own 2 feet. And I think that's really where we are as an organization now. We're really just starting to stand on our own feet now.
Right.
We're becoming streamlined.
Yeah.
We're not Aero. And
Yeah.
that's exciting. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what's really exciting is that, you got us down here to talk about Streamline,
Mhm.
and then you find out about Aero, not vice versa.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Right? And
Yeah.
I think so the Aero piece I think is a relevant piece. I think it really can drum up interest as to, okay, how are these folks different and what are they doing? Because there's a lot of this out there. But you know what? We're really streamlined.
Right.
And it's going to become more and more streamlined.
Yeah.
And that's exciting, and that's where the steps and the progression of our development of technology will take us.
Yeah.
And suddenly it'll be, oh, by the way, just in case you hear out there, Aero was a big part of who we were a long time ago, and that's kind of the genesis of where we are today.
Yeah, and it really allows for a lot of. I mean, any business that is able to then, in essence, make money off of the people that are sometimes even competitors.
Yeah.
That's a huge advantage
Yeah.
to any company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says a lot, actually, when
Mhm.
you go in and there's been some that have been direct competitors, but you know what? Respectful and good, honest competitors.
Yeah.
And then you go in and you say, would you like to look at our technology? And the answer is, yeah, we
Yeah.
would actually.
Yeah.
And you get that trust piece over the table right away and say, listen, this is how it works. These are the privacy policies. This is the contract. This is the data. It's been really interesting.
Yeah.
Learned a lot.
What about this DeGamma? What is that?
So DeGamma is a joint venture. That's
Yeah,
we
would
own
you mind bringing that? Oh,
60%
you're
of it.
ahead of me.
Is a trucking management system, TMS, in the marketplace, and really it's a back end ERP for trucking, for transportation. So it's a fully integrated ERP solution. And really what it means is you can dispatch orders to the truck. The truck can then take pictures of bills of lading and scan documents, send them back. It's got the accounting piece. It's got the maintenance piece. So it just pulls your entire business together as a trucking ERP. And so what we've decided is it was something that we were using as an organization.
Mhm.
We thought the platforms would work nicely together because it is a real pain point on how an onboard piece and a back-end tool can work and integrate together.
Right.
It's really a challenge. It's just hard. I mean, there are a lot of different platforms. They don't always speak and work as nicely as you'd like them to. So
Yeah.
we felt, you know what, selfishly, we want these two tools that we're using to work really well together. So let's take some ownership stake in it, and then we can drive the bus on that per se,
Right.
and make it better. And then hopefully we can service, a size of organization that really struggles with technology and give them something great.
So this is something you developed then, not something you took over. That was 12 years ago.
We took that over.
Oh,
So
you took that
basically,
over as well.
that's a 30-year-old company that
Oh.
existed already, and then within the last 2+ years, we became majority owners of it.
And you're also trying to integrate it into all these other
Absolutely.
systems.
Yeah, the mobile piece, so that we talk about the driver and what the driver's doing all day, every day. Well, the other piece is they're picking up orders. And
Right.
so it's nice to be able to send that order to the tablet. He can confirm that he's received the order. He can send, like I said, documents that he would have had to bring back to the office in order for the fleet transportation company to get paid.
Yeah.
Now he can remotely send them through the tool, scan barcodes, a lot of different things that to our listeners out there that are doing it, they'll go, okay, that's nice. It's
Yeah.
doable. It's already doable today, but it's leveraging the tablet, if you will, as opposed to having different
Yeah.
pieces of hardware, printers, scanners, one tool, use it for everything, leverage the hardware, leverage the software, get better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I find even you touched on it a second ago with trying to integrate these technologies, the challenges there. I mean, we find even in our office, you're on a cloud system, you have your accounting software, your invoices, your billing, your emails, everything you're trying to integrate, but it actually is quite challenging to integrate
Very much.
together, and you find one piece that just doesn't quite work well, and it can cause a lot more work. Has this been? I mean, you're VP of sales and marketing.
Yep.
So I'm sure you have to spend a lot of time dealing with the developers.
Absolutely.
How long has it taken to integrate? Because when you bought these, they're separate. They're separate things.
Yes.
How much work has it taken to actually integrate into all these, or is it even done yet?
No, I mean, I think the honest answer is it does take time.
Mm-hmm.
Because really what happens is every customer is a little bit different.
Yeah.
So what integration means to one customer is not necessarily what integration means to another
Yeah.
customer. How you want your tools to work here and how your invoicing and all that connects is not necessarily how somebody that's doing the same thing looks at it and does it. So you know, the best way I can describe it is you've got your basics, and then you've got your, you know, your required elements, and then
Yeah.
you've got thereafter. So it's ongoing.
Yeah.
I think there's always an ongoing piece with customers. Of course, today it's integrated, and you can dispatch the orders to the truck. You can run the telematics. There's fleet tracking. All the things that both platforms offer can run simultaneously and run well. But there's always going to be a little bit more that somebody wants, that somebody thought of, and somebody asked. So I think the development's always ongoing.
Yeah.
So it took time to get to that first step after we acquired the Gamma to get it from an on-premise to a mobile piece. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I think more than many realize when they're
Yeah.
about to do it. But it's worth it. And I mean, that's really where people want to be. They want to be on a mobile platform. They want to be on a SaaS environment. That's what they want.
Yeah. So all these three are available though. They're in
They're
use.
available.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, at different companies at different times of their lives as organizations are going to want one, two, or all three.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
you can't separate the.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
That's interesting.
They're not tied to each other. They can, you know, for example, the Navistream can work with other TMSs. The Gamma works with other telematics.
Yeah.
You know, it's again, you know, for us, certainly I haven't been in the business for 100 years. I'm not that old yet. I feel like it some days, but
Well, you
100
stay busy. We saw that.
yeah,
in
I'm
your-
pretty busy. 100 years of a company survives for a reason. I mean,
Yeah.
it does a really good job. It forges really good relationships. It doesn't let its customers down.
Yeah.
So you know what? We're not going to say this is the only way to do business.
Yeah.
We're going to listen to our customers, and because we want to find good partners too, and our good partners are going to drive us in terms of what direction they want to go with one, two, or three of the platforms.
Yeah.
But even the NaviLink, for interest, like, you know, people that might be listening out there might say, well, I'd love to, you know, automate the vehicle and actively control that throttle through certain zones in my day for my people. Like there's this one area where I have a permit. I have to manage that over this bridge. They travel at this speed, and it's a pain in the butt. Well, now I can guarantee that happens.
Well, in Alberta.
But I
they're
don't
putting-
use Navistream.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
We can connect you to your telematics and work that way as well.
Oh, I see.
So it's not one or nothing, or
Yeah.
all or nothing. Sorry.
That must be a huge demand, though. Like that's just something that will be just an industry standard. I mean, I know in Alberta they've got these companies that set up the speeds monitors, and if you get like 2 strikes,
Yeah.
and you're off the site.
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
have no time for people speeding through. So
Right.
that must be a huge.
That's where the opportunity is.
Yeah.
Like it's industry, raw industry. I think there's a massive opportunity. It scares people because they go, oh, geez, people aren't going to want to be controlled, right? But it doesn't have to be all day, and it can be like it's interesting. You use that analogy of 2 strikes, you're out. It was when you start talking to different fleets about it. My first instinct was I think some will be a little nervous about this, but it was actually, you know, a veteran in the industry, an older guy in the industry that had been in a long time, who I expected to just say, I'm not interested in something like that. He goes, really? So I could give 3 strikes and you're out mentality to drivers? I said, yeah, it's yours. You program it how you want. He goes, brilliant.
Yeah.
So just what you said, right?
Yeah, I've talked to, especially with doing this show, but even before this with some of our consulting work and research, and I've talked to so many people, and people will make a comment to me. You know, you're out just kind of hanging out with just friends, and they'll make a comment about people who are older or whatever, and I've said to them, out of all the people I've talked to, young people too,
Of course.
but the amount of especially older businessmen
Yeah.
who they're actually very open. They don't pretend to know the technology, but they understand. These guys have lived years of trying to find new opportunities, new ways to make better. I actually find sometimes the guys my age, or the people in business my age, they kind of have the more attitude that they do know it all. So it's actually harder to explain a new strategy to them. Whereas I find some of the older guys that they listen. They've built their career off of going, how do we get better?
Yeah.
I
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the type of people you want to have in your organization, and I think those are the type of people you want to work with as customers and partners.
Yeah. I want to get into some other stuff in a bit, but Gowdy, we got to give a shout out to our other sponsor.
Yes. We have lots of sponsors.
It's a busy show for sponsorship, and which is nice. It means we can keep doing the show.
Yes, so please sponsor us. No, we're also brought to you by Resource World Magazine, reporting on the business of mining, oil and gas, green technologies, and the events that affect these sectors. So that you can catch their February-March issue and see all the latest news at resourceworld.com.
Thank you very much. Wait a second. February, March. What are we in now?
We're in March.
Yeah, so they just. Oh, yes, they do
it's-
2 every. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a ton of good articles on there, actually.
You do, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you have some questions.
I do have some questions.
You wanted to
My
dig-
turn.
You want to dig into Dan's personal life.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Well,
I want to
that'll
know more about
It's
Dan.
boring.
We're on your Facebook.
Well, you like we were talking about, you've been around for quite some time, and you've kind of jumped into many different companies. One of which I'm very kind of want to know more about
Sure.
is you were working with Maersk,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Kind of how was that?
Oh.
And how did that kind of working with them and then kind of evolving into now what is Streamline? How has
Yeah,
that been?
no, I mean, I've worked for, well, aside from, the coaching, I've worked for 2 companies in 25 years. So I've been really fortunate. I've worked for 2 great companies and very different. So my time with Maersk was excellent. I loved it. I was, just a young guy out of school, grew up in Prince George, industry town, worked for, our father ran equipment, so pretty simple guy. Just went to university and hoped to find a great job, and I was lucky. I stumbled upon Maersk in a Globe and Mail ad in UBC when I was in school. I sent my resume back in those days out to New Jersey, and 3 interviews later, they hired me into Maersk International Shipping Education Program. So it was whirlwind for the first 3 years. It was a year in your home region, a year abroad, and a year back.
Wow.
For, like I said, a guy from a small town with pretty modest upbringing that didn't get to travel much other than riding a bus to a hockey game and trying to stop a few pucks. It was great. I learned a ton. I mean, that experience with Maersk was, I can't even begin to say enough about it. A great organization, taught me a lot about business, taught me a lot about process, about great habits and how to be successful as an organization and with a lot of moving parts, how to carry yourself the right way, which I think, I was raised the right way, but I think it just re-stressed those good values. And it was unbelievable. Like just a really first-class organization, nothing bad to say. Didn't leave for any bad reason, just some personal things where you don't want to try and, moving 9 times in 9 years and starting a family, and then you've really got to look at your own 4 walls and go, well, like, what's best for not just me, but for everybody here. And I think we just needed some roots, given some things in our family, and that's where we got away from there. But no, the education program with working in different areas and doing different jobs and external studies. We had 2 trips a year where we had to go write exams, and they really put us through the paces. We called it the Maersk Army for the young people in it. They hired about 100 people a year back in that day.
Wow.
From all over the world. So a couple Canadians, and they couldn't find anybody else, so I guess I got hired. So no, it was a good organization, and aside from learning a lot about business, you learn a lot about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You really get put through some paces where it tests you. There's a lot of adversity. There's a lot of questions. I remember my first day, my second year was in London, and we were in Canary Wharf, and I remember, taking the little water bus, aqua bus over the Thames River to go to my first day in Canary Wharf. I had my briefcase. It was empty. I had nothing in it, and I was scared. Like, I was really scared. Like, I thought, am I going to make this work? Like, can I do this job? And yeah, it was good. I learned real quickly that I could, and just good hard work. And so yeah, it was a phenomenal company. I mean, we can talk for as long about that or as little about it as you like, but nothing but good things to say about that whole organization, AP Moeller, and the people there, which I still have contact with. They've been outstanding.
Yeah.
Wow. Is there anything in particular that you can now say, or that you've taken from being with Maersk and put or integrated that into Streamline?
Habits done well, hard work and habits. I think the Maersk mentality, and the people that think of Maersk will obviously think, like, everybody's got an opinion, right? Like, not everybody loves Maersk, not everybody, but very well operated, like operates well, and there's a right way to operate, and so that was why you used to hear Back in the day, you knew what time it was when the Maersk ship went under the bridge. Like it was the same time
Right.
every week. It was on schedule, and so really process and habits driven.
Yeah.
So you know what I think habits done well goes to a lot of things. I mean, when we talk about our technology, it's really about making sure that habits are done well every day, and then from there measure what's going on and look to improve. So I learned that probably as much as anything. You know, you think about container shipping and global industry, and there's so many moving parts. It's overwhelming, like when you think about it. But it was just always broken down into simple process chunks, and it was really quite simple. Like my first year was in Halifax, and I saw time in every department where they were. I couldn't have given them a whole lot of value in that year because a month and a half you don't do your job real well, but you learned how to load the ship, you learn how to dispatch trucks, you learn how to book containers, you learn how to go out and see customers, and it when you walked into the office, it just seemed so overwhelming. But when you got to your desk, it was really cut and dry, and they did that exceptionally well. You knew your role. There was quality processes in place, and that's the thing I've always tried to take into anything, whether it be to Aero, which I hope I brought in some cases and helped, and to coaching players. You know, a lot about just good habits, consistent work ethic. And we'll see what good things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. The other thing is, how was your transition or from Aero into Streamline? What was that
It
like?
was hard. Yeah. I mean, it was really hard. You go from, my transition to Aero was hard because I had slowly found and meandered my way into dealing with customers more than anything. I must have put some cargo in some wrong spots in the ship, maybe, or something, where they said, we're not letting you do this anymore. No, which isn't true, but it's. But then you get into at Aero, we became more of a cradle to grave type manager. Like you did everything from contract, workforce, cost modeling, you name it. Like you're responsible as leadership in Aero. That's what you're responsible to. So maybe don't know a lot about everything, but you need to know something about everything and do it well and be able to manage. So you're doing that for a number of years and learning, and then all of a sudden you're selling technology. You're trying to grow a business from scratch. I'd never done either. But you know what? Again, it's about what people need. How are you going to help people? And that's always been the common theme in everything. Like, how are you going to help people? Like, they need something. How are you going to help them? How are you going to get them to where they want to be?
Yeah.
And so that, as much as I'll be honest, there's been some days where I started really early because you're just constantly learning and constantly struggling to make sure you know what you're doing and you don't let people down. You're trying to, you got a startup that started with 8 of us and now we're up to, a lot more. And you don't want to let those people down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you just keep learning and you keep your own habits and it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
What were the biggest challenges that you found kind of moving into Streamline?
Honestly, I mean, I think I'm really proud of what we've done. I'm proud of the growth we've had. It's just never fast enough. Like you guys would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Like you start a company and there's real bills to pay.
Yeah.
And we sit back and we'll talk like we were talking off the air about, why do we do business? Why do we do this? Well, we all get into business because we want to make money. And when you're in a startup, it's hard to make money.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pressure. That's hard. That's hard when you look at your financials and they're not where you want them to be.
Yeah.
That's hard. That's probably the biggest challenge because you gain confidence from the fact that, if you make a plan and you walk the plan and you work hard and execute on a plan, you maybe naively you think you're gonna get there. But it's never fast enough. Probably is, for me personally, has been the biggest challenge.
Yeah, which is tough when like a larger company, like even Aero or you go huge scale like a Maersk, sometimes their transitions are slower because they've got to protect all their interests as they move into like a new technology or a new strategy or a new business. But the consequences they're contained within that little box.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're starting out something and you're 8 or even 20 employees, or the consequences are just so everybody's neck is on the line, even if it's the person greeting people at the front desk. Everybody's task is on the line pretty much every move you make. And I don't think, unless you've done it, I don't think you can really understand that kind of pressure.
I would agree.
I've done it a couple times and
I would agree. But you know what? It's really rewarding.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably healthy. You don't know what you're getting into. When I got tapped on the shoulder and said, "Hey, would you try this? I think you could do it." I said, "Okay, sure." And I didn't think about it. Just said, "You know what? I know when I came to this company, I said I would do whatever's needed.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's what we need to do next, then that's what I'll do." And it's probably good that I didn't really understand a lot of what I was going to get into, because it's a lot. It's a lot of long days, but it is rewarding, and you take real pride. I think I'm a competitive guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't need to be pushed, and so there's lots to compete with internally.
Yeah.
With yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's good.
Wow.
I think it's made me better.
Yeah.
All three roles, even though two are ultimately with the same company, they've all made me better in different ways, and even what I do on my part time, which seems more of a job than a hobby to some, it just makes you better. You gotta like you said about the old guys, you gotta keep willing to learn, willing to get better.
Yeah.
But 3 roles, but you also have goalie,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or coaching is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
And
bet.
how is that?
It's fun. Yeah.
Gowdy's favorite sport is hockey.
It's not at all, I'm gathering. We haven't rehearsed this, so
No.
you don't like it at all, I'm guessing.
Jared says it's because
I'll
I
give
don't
you
know
$1
anything
million
about
if
hockey.
you can name 3 Canucks right
and
now.
I will not do that.
Well, there are going to be 3 Canucks you're going to know pretty soon, because they're going to be fine. So we've got a few young guys that you'll know. You'll drive around the city. That's all you'll
It'll
hear
be
about.
everywhere.
Yeah, I'm heading to the game tonight, actually.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Quinn Hughes is supposed to do his debut tonight, and I think he's out with a bone bruise.
Yeah.
Just my luck.
Well, he's a special player.
Yeah.
So for those that don't like hockey, it doesn't matter. I mean, when you get young athletes and young people that are really exceptional at what they do, it's really cool, for lack of a better way to put it. So they've got some really nice young pieces there that are really good at what they do.
Yeah.
And they'd be fun to watch if you have any interest in it. So yeah, they're going to be a good team, I think.
I was watching them. I watched Pedersen play against the Sharks. And what is he, 6'1", 6'2", 160 pounds, so they say. Doesn't look like
Doesn't
160
look like
to me. But
looks like my son, like younger than my son, for goodness sake.
oh, he's just this little tiny, and the Sharks are a big team.
Yeah.
And it's they got beaten pretty bad, but not by his fault. And watching somebody be able to outsmart these guys who look like giants beside him. They literally look like giants.
Yeah.
And just seeing how smart he really is, it is something to see. And 19 years old.
Yeah.
Like it's
well, smart is important.
Yeah.
As much as there's an athletic piece there, the brain can overcome a lot. So no, I've coached. I mean, in the Western Hockey League, it's a major junior hockey in Canada. It's the highest level of juniors.
Mm-hmm.
It's arguably the best development league in the world for players that are ultimately want to get into the NHL, and there's great programs for them to go to school if they don't make hockey. So I take a lot of pride in that. I think it's a good chance to help some young people try to achieve their dreams, but in the process just be there to help them. So I've done that for the Kamloops Blazers for 10 years. Been really lucky, like as a guy that's not there every day, and it's a hobby, a part-time. They've afforded me a lot of latitude to do it. Hopefully I do a good job for them, don't let them down and the kids down, and I've loved it. I've been in that league for 13 years, and and I always say the trap door hasn't opened yet. So I thought maybe they were running short on patience for what the goalies were doing on the ice, and I said, well, maybe I shouldn't go to the rink for a week or so, because if they can't find me, they can't fire me. But no, it's been great. It's been really rewarding, and there's a lot of lessons that move from the rink to the office and vice versa. Yeah. And I think it's that is as much of anything as a real motivator for me to keep doing it. As much as it's extra, it's forcing me to learn, forcing me to keep thinking about how you're managing people, different generation. You've got 16 to 20-year-olds. They don't respond the same way, but they respond, and they're this whole concept of they're entitled and all that. I don't buy. They're just different, and there's a different way to work with them. Yeah. And I think we're all that way to some degree. So no, it's been great, and we've been lucky to get good athletes to come in, and they make the coach look good. They always say good goalie makes a good coach. So yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun.
I've looked at you were talking about being a startup essentially, sort of that pressure, and I don't think anybody who's ever played, well, I mean, most sports actually, that final line of defense, the goalie.
Yeah.
There's not really anything that has more pressure in the game, because at the end of the day, if you lose, it is the puck that went in the
Yeah.
back behind you,
Yeah.
or in soccer or any sport. What is it when you see these? I mean, some of these kids are 16, 17 years old,
Yeah.
and that they're going from minor hockey, they're jumping up into this league with 20-year-old men in some cases. How much of when you're working with them is, and the same with a startup, how much is working with the mindset and then actually working with the skill development?
That's a really good question, and to be quite honest, it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
There's no one answer. There's no one way to coach. I think that's what I've learned, is that it's incumbent upon you to learn about that person, to build that understanding of who they are and how they are and what's important to them. Have that level of care for them, and then some it's all technical. It's very little mental. They're really mentally strong. The puck drops and they're gamers, and some, the puck drops and they're maybe not that, and they need a little bit more of that, and whatnot. What I've always felt, and I'm not sure how the listeners would relate this, but try not to ever let the athlete go home where they're upset. Like, that's really important, I think. I think there's a point where, you got to be accountable. It's the real world. You're going to have tough days. But you know what? I had one say to me, he's in the Tampa Bay Lightning system, and he'd never said this to me when I coached him. But what he said, we were doing a coach conference together, and somebody asked a question. It was both of us on a panel. How is it having a coach and whatnot? And he said, you know what Dan used to make sure is that I never went home upset, and I always had a good night's sleep. I'd get into our post-game discussion some days pretty hot, like really mad or really upset or something. I never left that meeting upset. I always felt better. I went home, had a great sleep, and started again the next day.
Yeah.
And he goes, it was huge for me. And so I think that's, those are the things that you learn when you're doing that job, that you remind yourself, you've got employees who are having tough days. Some days I'm not maybe the best boss to work for. I can be tough, I guess, at times. But you know what? Make sure that people understand that, okay, there's a new day tomorrow, and these are the things we learned today, and we're going to get after it tomorrow again, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. When I saw that on your, I mean, I grew up obviously watching the Blazers and slowly realizing I wasn't good enough to play for them.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Same. You know what? We joked off air. I'm a better coach than a player.
Yeah.
That's okay. Like, sometimes you just, you don't get the feet and the hands to do the job. It's not your fault. It is what it is, right?
Yeah. But it's interesting getting to work with that, at that sort of, like you said, the highest level.
Yeah.
But with their kids still.
Yeah.
It's an interesting responsibility to take, and I saw it on your LinkedIn, and it was quite interesting.
Yeah, no, I've been lucky, and then then you get into another level, and a Hockey Canada level. I got some touch with that as well, and you get to the highest level, and that almost becomes the Maersk of it, if you will, like the process, the culture, very laid out, very organized. Stay in your lane, do a great job. It looks overwhelming before you get there the first time, and then just really well done. You learn a ton. It's a long-winded answer. It's both. It's technical, it's mental, it's both. And it some days it changes.
Yeah.
And you better be ready.
Yeah.
You better be ready for that change, and hopefully you're armed with enough knowledge and care to be able to help.
And attentive to the individual, not just an overlay. Does this make you want to go to hockey? Watch hockey?
No.
Yeah.
It's fast. Have you ever been to a game?
I've never been. Actually, no, I've never.
So
been
if you're going to go to a game, it's easy to say. It's not so easy to do at times. If you're going to go to a game, try and sit right on the glass. Go sit like in a corner on the glass, and you'll fall in love. It's so fast. They're so big, and you'll just be enamored in how they can do all the things they do on blades, on ice, and with a stick. I mean, it's unreal. Yeah. That's my best advice. I think the closer you can get to it, you lose a lot. Like
Yeah.
the hockey fan over years wants to see it from the top and see all the
Yeah.
moving
Yeah.
parts,
Yeah.
the chess match.
The chess match,
But
yeah.
the new fan needs to get right down as low as you can and see it for all it is. It's
All
it's
right.
pretty
That's a
impressive.
really
That
good
puck's
point.
moving fast. Everybody's fast. It's unbelievable.
You got some
There you go.
you got
Now
some
I-
Vancouver Giant and Kamloops Blazers tickets coming your way.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. That's
I'll
that's an easy one. I was going to do that off air because I didn't want to look like a salesman. But by all means, there's tickets for you if you want to go to a hockey
Yeah.
game. My pleasure.
The before we wrap up the show, what are we at? We got a little bit of time
We
here.
got time, yeah.
Some of this technology, how much of it is already integrated? How much is everybody using it? I know that there's laws that are coming into place for the logging, but also the automation that's coming in and the AI. And can you kind of lay what that's going to
Yeah.
look like out in the next 10 years, sort
Like,
of thing?
Transportation, like if we look at like heavy duty trucks, the big trucks that we see go up and down the road,
Yeah.
you know, it's a big. The data's like different statistics and whatnot. Let's say there's over 1 million of them in Canada, and small fleets represent basically 90% of that, 80 to 90% depends on the stats you look
What's
at.
considered a
So
small
you
fleet?
could under 6 trucks.
Okay. Oh wow.
So all the big fleets, which let's say for fun, say 20% of the market, would all have some form of technology. You just can't live without it.
yeah.
You're running blind and you're not. So, but you've got a lot of really small, fragmented pieces of the industry that don't have a lot of it, if any of it.
I didn't realize that much of the industry was.
And
that
that's
small.
why the push for we got to make sure that all these vehicles are running something,
Oh, I
right?
see.
Because the big players are all doing something, and they want to use technology to get better. Like we voluntarily put electronic logs in 2009, 2010 because it just made sense.
Yeah.
We're chasing this paper, we're chasing violations. It's just too cumbersome. Let's leverage technology to make our lives easier and even make the lives of a driver easy. Drivers get nervous about it that haven't done it, and then they love it.
Yeah.
Because it just saved them time.
Yeah.
It's done right. There's no mistakes that they get, just literally like writing in the wrong name of a home terminal is a violation and a fine for them. So they just, all that stuff cleans up for them. They love it.
Yeah.
And they find that they're not really challenged with hours as much as they thought they were. So you got it's a fragmented industry. You've got a lot of smaller players and aren't really into the technology. So there'll be another push. And then that's a challenge to find tools that a large number of small players can use.
Yeah. Is it affordable for what you're selling to go into a fleet with 5 or 6 trucks?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like 100% sincere. Like if tomorrow I get entrusted to look after 5 trucks, they all have technology in them.
Right.
It's just because it always breaks down to one truck, right? Like everything you do is a cost model and a budget and an outcome on one truck, and then you just multiply that by 5, 6, or 400.
Yeah.
But it always breaks down to how you budget and how you cost trips and routes to one vehicle. So yes, there's a lot more utilization that goes when they cross over and whatnot. But if I can save money on one truck, then why wouldn't I want to save money on 400 trucks?
Right.
Vice versa. If I can save it on 400 trucks, why wouldn't I on 5?
Yeah.
There's this concept that I'm small, I don't need that. But as soon as I'm in the office and you two are out on the road and you have a job to do, there's an opportunity there.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's what I think the mandate for just something as simple as logs has made it affordable for people to realize that, hey, I can do more with this. It's funny, I'll give you a great story because sometimes stories are the best. It's a motor coach company in Kamloops that didn't run the technology, friends with them. They drive the bus for the team and probably for our kids over the years. And said to them, before we even took Streamline to market, you guys don't run any technology in here. No. I said, well, don't you want to kind of know what's going on in the bus, your fuel economy, these metrics, so you can price things properly? No, we know what we're doing. I said, okay. I said, you don't worry about, something going wrong, like maybe driver's behavior or hours or things like that. I said, we're hauling like bulk commodities that don't involve people. You've got 40 passengers. No, we've got 40 passengers that will basically tell the driver if they're doing the right thing or not. Well, fast forward a year later, the mandate's coming, get some technology in the vehicles, and the comment comes back. He goes, I only wanted it for the logs. I couldn't believe the things I found that I didn't expect to find.
Yeah.
good things, not always bad. Like I don't want to give
Right,
everybody.
yeah.
So like some of the people were doing a phenomenal job, and I didn't really recognize that. And I was able to recognize people for doing a great job. And some people were going a little too quick. It's not safe. It's not right, and it's too much risk in my business for that, right? So that transparency's good. So you know what? We started by running trucks that are hauling bulk commodities, and we're in motor coaches, we're in medium duty, light duty vehicles. There's not a vehicle that we can't be a part of, right?
Yeah.
Different fuel haulers, good partners, integrated partners. It's been really interesting.
Well, the automation, controlling speed and braking and all this type of thing, the driverless semi truck going down the Coquihalla, that's hard to say when it probably will come, but it's a
There's
ways
time.
out. What about the automation though in the braking speed, those type of
Yeah,
things? How close is that to being standard in?
I don't think it's that close to being
No.
standard, but it's right there for us.
Yeah.
And I really believe we're leaders in that space, believe it or not, like from this corner of the world. I think it's something that it's a step towards maybe getting to the autonomous vehicle at some point. But, when we talk about like the example of, the 2 strikes, if you don't behave on this site, those are specifically the use cases we're getting right now. Like we have a closed environment, and you know what? I'm not sure if I want to drive through the city and manage everything they do. I'm not sure my head's there yet.
Yeah.
But I know in certain pockets of the route, I don't want to mess around anymore. I want to take control of it there.
Yeah.
I don't want to monitor. I want to control.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a huge market for it, because any listener that is out there right now, I bet you could come up with a number of situations or locations where they would say, yeah, that does actually make sense there.
Yeah. Would it control acceleration as well?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Because acceleration is cost.
that's
Acceleration
cost.
is safety.
Yeah.
Right? Accelerating and decelerating at rapid pace is aggressive driving. You're trying to eliminate aggressive driving.
Right.
It's, again, habits done well.
Yeah.
So you get in your vehicle, you're not aggressive, you're not racing to the stop sign and putting your brakes on, you're going to run your brakes out.
Yeah. Now, is this being used? This isn't really commonplace in Canada yet.
No,
But is it like in the U.S.? Are they using this? Like, are
They're-
there fleets that have this?
not to
No?
that extent, no.
No.
There would be some that would take external technologies, put it in the cab, and be able to mitigate tailgate, collision avoidance, the things that we have in our personal vehicles.
Right. Yeah.
Take it and put it in a fleet of a bunch of different trucks
Right.
that are older, right? The thing about automation is you could say, okay, well, new vehicles have some of these features already, so why does it matter? Well, fleets aren't built with new vehicles, and it takes time to turn a fleet.
Right.
So you still have to operate in that period of
So
time.
the truck will last years.
100%.
Yeah.
It depends on how many miles and kilometers. It depends on where jurisdiction.
Right.
So you still have this, multiple fleet, multiple age, multiple brands that don't all offer the same features, same safety features or control features. So that's where we could come in agnostically and put it in a vehicle and do it amongst an entire fleet.
Right.
That's really the opportunity. But there are technologies that will help you with tailgating and collision avoidance and give you the beeps that we would get in our personal vehicles.
Yeah.
But not controlling the throttle, not controlling acceleration and speed and some other things that we'll
Right.
do.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes. I think it's now that the technology is sort of there. It's always I'm always curious to see how fast it spreads and becomes commonplace, standard, government regulated, all these sort of things, and it's going to be interesting. So.
Yeah, I'm confident. I mean, you do something for 100 years, you do something for 13 years, you do things and you learn. You learn from a big machine, you learn from a great company like Aero, you learn in sport that if you do the right things and you do them consistently and you have things that people want, you're going to have success.
Yeah.
And so the wild card is, will people want it?
Yeah.
But we're out to market and people are saying, yeah, we want this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now it's just up to us to do what we've done for a lot of years. Do it right, do it well, treat people right, don't let them down, and we'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And good luck to you as
Yeah,
well.
thank you.
Thank you for coming
Yeah,
on
it
the
was
show,
great.
Dan. Yeah.
Thank you for having me. It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Okay, we are going to wrap up the show, and I'm glad Dan came on the show with us. We've got a new episode every week. Are we looking at this camera?
We are looking at this
Okay. We've got a new episode every week. Like you mentioned, you're welcome to sponsor. We want to find more guests.
That's right.
Guests are free. If you've got technology or expertise in the industry, we want you to come on. We want to give a voice to industry, keep people up to date on what's going on in it. So please come on the show. Gowdy, where can they find us, follow us, like us,
Everywhere.
badmouth us if you want? It's online.
Hey, yeah. Everywhere. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crownsman Partners. We've got all our episodes on there. You can also listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Castbox, pretty much everywhere.
You just add more every week.
Just every week. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all at Crownsman P.
Yeah.
And you'll see the links below as well.
You know what's a fun one too is on Facebook. We have the Crownsman Podcast Facebook group.
Yes,
and
we do.
That's where all the new shows are out. But it's a little more interactive. And
Yeah,
sometimes
we're
we do
definitely
giveaways.
more.
And,
We do giveaways, contests. So please join the group as well.
Okay. Thank you for watching, everybody. We will see you on the next show.
Goodbye.